Right. So I've done it. Okay. Right. So I think in the last class, okay, we have discussed about various aspects about Azure SQL database creation. Okay. Right. So we have discussed about the public and private endpoints. We have discussed about user management, and we have said that okay, whenever you're dealing with Azure SQL database, so what are the different things which you need to basically worry about? Okay. And while finishing the class, I think I've started speaking about the replications or the geo replications and all of that stuff. Okay. So right, we will try to continue from that point. Okay. Yeah. So let me open the environment. We still have people to join, but still, hopefully, till I set all of these things up, there will be people who will join. Okay. Okay. Let me close all of this and let me log in into my Azure account. Okay, I'm just making the things ready so that when people join, I have everything open. All right. I'm just opening the database which you have created yesterday. Yeah. So we have a server and we have a database. All right, sir. Good. I think I'm set up. Uh, yeah, I'll start. I'll start from there, Arvind. I'll start from there. Okay. So let me start with today. I'll try to speak about these following topics: geo replications. Okay. Something called as failover groups and data sync. Okay. And then pricing, we will compare DTU versus vCore model. Okay. So I'll put it in this way: geolocations, georeplications, data sync. Okay. Different options in Azure. Okay. To synchronize data in databases. Okay. Or let me not put this one. So, okay. But the first three options have something to do with SQL data synchronization, and then we will be basically looking into the pricing. Okay. And once we finish this stuff, then we will try to understand what is elastic pool. Okay. Right. So This is the agenda of our class, and tomorrow we'll be having a practical session with CLI and a PowerShell to do whatever we have learned. Okay, right. So this is what I'll be doing. Let me see. I think most of the people are around here, so I'll get started. Yeah, right. Okay. So the first thing, what is this whole concept of geo replication? Okay. So I have an Azure, okay, Azure SQL database in some region. Okay. So for the sake of it, let me call this region as Chennai or South India. Okay. There will be no hyphen in Azure. Yeah. Right. And now what I want to do is I want to have the same database. Sorry. I want to have the same database in Pune, which they are basically calling it as Central India, the region's name. Okay. So what Azure tries to tell is you can basically for these kind of activities generally, let us assume that it is not Azure, it is your office. Okay, you have one SQL server in your Chennai's office and you want the same data to be synced with uh, the office in Pune. Generally what people or what your DBA does is here also he will create a database and then he will configure some rules between this database and this database, and he will raise a request to the network team saying that enable some sort of connectivity between these two regions, between these two regions. That is generally how it goes. Yeah. Guys, am I not audible? Because Shankar is complaining he is unable to hear me. It happens with me all the time, man. All right, fine then. So now what Azure tries to tell is whenever you want to do this, there is no need for you to do much. Okay, I can set up something called as geo replication for you. I can set up something called as geo replication from. So in geo replication, what Azure tries to do is, okay, it creates one more database. It creates one more database, and then it tries to synchronize the data between these two. It tries to synchronize the data between these two. So now let me put some Azure virtual machine. Okay. Consider this to be your app server. So what will app server do? App server will first use or send the data to Azure SQL. Okay. Now this data is automatically getting into here. The replication is automatically happening, geo replication. Once you set up, whatever data that has been sent over here will also be appearing over here, so that, okay, you can run the same application server or a similar application server. Okay. And then when this application server tries to request for the data, okay, This or this will give you the same results. Okay, so it is like Swiggy running in two regions. It is like Swiggy running in two regions, right? So generally your users, the traffic goes to Chennai. But let us assume something goes wrong in Chennai, then the users might be redirected to Pune in your application. Now, when the users are redirected to Pune, there should not be any data mismatch. Okay, so whatever data that has been sent to Chennai should be in Pune also, because your application is running in both the regions. Okay, so if you want this kind of stuff, then geo replications comes into play. But there is one problem, and I'll not speak about problems now. Right now, this is the concept of geo replication. Okay, am I clear on this now? Yeah, all right. So now in geo replication, you will have a database, and then you will synchronize the database into other region. And let me take a screenshot of it. Azure April databases image. I'll write it as SQL36. Okay. Dot slash images slash SQL36 dot png. Okay. Can be used to replicate the data in Azure SQL database from one region into any other region. Okay. Right. So yesterday also I think I've shown you the options. Right. Today also I'm showing you the options. But in this, I'll show you one thing which is interesting. All right. So when you look at this map, Azure tries to put all the regions in green color, but this is the only region which is in purple color. Yes. Okay. In the portal, Azure gives you recommendation to the paid region. To the paid region. So what is a paid region? Okay. Paid regions are two regions in any two regions in Azure, which are generally in one country, which have better connectivity, So now Azure paid regions. And whenever you are looking out for uh, basically disaster recovery in Azure, you need to understand this paid region concept. Paid regions are two regions in Azure which are in the same geography, which are in the same country generally, and which have better connectivity speeds between them. So now if you want to find out what is the region pair, what are the paid regions? Okay. So what is it I have selected? Central US. I selected Central US, and it says for Central US the paid region is East US 2. Okay, because the connectivity between these two regions will be very fast when compared to all the other regions. Okay, right. It is a Uma Mahesh, let me finish my stuff, then I'll come back to your question. Right. Okay. Right. So am I clear on this? So whenever you are going for any business continuity or disaster recovery kind of a solution, it is always recommended for you to go with this paid region. This is a recommendation, not mandatory. You can tell that, okay, I am in central US, but my other office is very much close to West US, right? So I don't want to do it into the East US too. So Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Okay, but this will be the fastest option which Azure is recommending you. Okay, so now if we go into this, scroll down. Okay, so what is that? East US. If you select the East US2, then the next thing which Azure tries to tell is, okay, right? You are trying to create a secondary database. You are trying to create a secondary database. Okay, so secondary database, don't get confused with the term again. Where was this image? If this is primary, this is what is calling as secondary. Okay, right. Okay, these are the options which will give us a whole story about. So right now, I'll try to just pick this one up. Okay, that eight. Okay. Now, if you come down, secondary type. Okay. So what is the secondary type now? It is what? Readable. It is readable. What do you mean by readable? You can only read queries from here. Okay. You cannot write. Okay. Now, if you come from database world, okay. So by default, whenever you want to write the database, it has to be in this mode. Okay, and whenever the user basically whenever only this database fails, then we will make this database writable. That is called as a failover option. That is called as a failover option. Okay, so for the people who didn't understood my statement, I have an application server, okay, and I have a database server. So I have a doubt that this database might fail. So what is it I have done? I have tried to create exact similar database now. Okay, but I will speak with this database only. This database will be used for all the stuff. What when it comes to this database, what this database can do is, this database can do read and write, and this database can do read only, because this is a primary database and this is considered to be secondary database. When something goes wrong, in here, so for example something has gone wrong in here, then what you would do is you would do an operation which is basically called to be a failover. Okay, then this secondary database will get an additional strengths now. Okay, one of that additional strength being, now you can read and write, and this database will temporarily act as primary database. Did you got this option now? Okay, right. Okay, so first of all, are we clear about this concept? This concept is going to come again and again today. Okay, other questions I'll answer it at later point of time. Am I clear with this option? Okay, right. So it is better. I let me do one thing. Let me not take a risk. Okay. Let me call it as app. Right. So this is how a failover looks like. You can get a better image in Google queries and all of that stuff, but it's okay. Okay. So failover. Business continuity and failover. This is also called as BCDR. Okay, for databases, okay, have the options of, okay, have the failover option. Okay, so the failover option is 38 for us. Okay, in on premises, okay, generally failovers are manual. When I say manual, that is a DBA has to perform it. DBA or a service, when don't get me, has to perform this. Okay, when I say DBA, it could be an IT resource also, right? In cloud, in on-premise also you have options, but in cloud, okay, we have ways where failover can be automatic. Where the failover can be automatic. Okay, then again you have to do a failover. So what Nagasaran's question is, okay, you've made this primary, this has came back again, now will you make this primary? And in that case, what you need to do is, you need to do one more failover. You need to say that, okay, now I am going to do a failover from here to here. That is what you need to do. Okay, then the other one becomes a primary. Okay, right. Now whenever you are failing over, you are trying to select that this is my readable server, and then we know this configuration. We have actually created servers yesterday. Okay, so in the other region, it is asking about what is going to be your server's name. I'll call it as Qt commerce sec. Okay, uh, so I've selected a server. Then if you remember, it is asking me about elastic pool. We know about what this elastic pool is, and by default it will try to suggest the same kind of a machine which you have taken in the primary region. Okay, so I'm completely absolutely happy with that. So I click on okay. Now see what is happening. Sorry, saying I am not doing any kind of replication. Automatically the other database is basically getting replicated. Okay, I think so. Right, 1 minute. Sure. Okay, 40. I think I messed up some with some image numbers. This is 39. Okay, sorry man. 38, and then we have 40. Right. So I have to cross check, because correcting the documentation after the document has been published is very difficult. Right. Right. All right. Okay, good. So fine. So once you have done this, okay, after it says that I have been replicated, after this activity is finished, you have your own database. But there is one more basic stuff over here. There is something called as failover groups. There is something called as failover groups. Okay, so we will come to basically speak about what those failover groups are and all of that stuff, right? But you have to understand one thing. In Geo replication, failover is manual. This is something which I want you guys to understand. Okay, yeah, clear on this? We are going with Geo replication. If the region fails, you have to make the other region primary, then the failover is manual. Okay, but generally, right, generally, yeah, we are trying to learn the options. There are other ways of basically dealing with this. Okay, and that is what we will anyway try to learn. So am I clear on this Geo replication now? So in Geo replication, you will have other database which will become a secondary database, Okay, you can use that database. To read the stuff. Okay, so for example, over here you can write read queries. That means select queries, but it is not. You cannot write or insert any data until unless you basically fail over. Okay, so so far, if you have any questions, now I think I can answer with respect to Geo replications. Right? Do we see another server? Shabir, where do you see anything in Azure? Everything is in resource groups. In resource groups, you click on resources. I think if you remember that image, okay. This is the same story. I'm not going to answer this question again because you have to just know which resource your resource group belongs to now. So now I am quite sure that we know Central US is what we have created and East US2 is what we have geo replicated. So if you want, I can do this. Okay, right. They will be in the same resource group. Right. Yeah. Do we need to do this work in portal in our routine or do we Shravan, we can do anything which you do from portal from CLI. Okay, so we will be doing this from CLI and మీకు ఇంకొక విషయం అర్థం చేసుకోవాల్సింది ఏంటంటే ఫస్ట్ అసలు UI లో రాకుండా CLI లో ఎలా చేస్తారు నాకు దానికి సమాధానం చెప్పండి. Right, first if you don't understand what are the options, how do you do this from CLI? Right, there was one more question which was being asked. In failover scenarios, how will it redirect? Okay, do we need to configure anything? No. Generally, in failover scenarios, we do a lot of stuff. But in the case of Azure SQL, you have to just do a failover. And you have asked me a question, will you have a cost implication? Definitely you have a cost implication because you have two times the databases. So generally, if you are paying X amount per month, now you are paying 2X amount. Okay, so if you want your application to be more available, it will be more costly. Money, I think I have answered the question. In geo replications, the failovers are manual. Okay, do we need to configure that right option? No, the moment you do the failover, it will automatically give write privileges to this. Okay, is paid only the option to data recovery? I didn't got your what is paid only, Neela Rao. I think if you can reframe your question, I think I'll be able to answer. Okay, so I think I've answered most of your questions. Is Geo would be applicable for? No, sir. Geo, whatever features which I'm trying to tell now are basically available only for managed databases. Okay. Yes, there will be an outage. See, region going down. Do you expect that to be without a downtime, Uma Mahesh? So, what is the kind of a scenario when your region goes down? Yeah, right. because it is a huge outage. Region going down is not a simple thing, right? Yeah. What is a cluster failover? So we have not even discussed about a cluster, but cluster failover is here we are speaking about single databases. There you will have a set of databases which act as a cluster, right? Okay. Geo available is available only on the Geo replication can be done to any region on Azure for a SQL Server database, but it is recommended that you go to a paid region. That is what I have spoken about. Okay. Yeah. For replication of DBs, do we have to do any configuration manually? If it is SQL Server, you don't need to. If it is SQL Server, you don't need to. Right. My understanding for manual failover is that we need to do, yes, you need to do it. So your region has gone down, your application is not responding, and you need to do it. Yes. It is part of your responsibility. That's where it is manual. If Azure is doing, I will call it that automatic. There will be an outage, sir. Uma Mahesh, in this Geo application, there will be an outage. I am not saying there will not be an outage. Okay. But this is a disaster. Can you go away with disasters without outage? Is that possible? Can you give me one example? This is not a backup kind of scenario. That's the whole point. This is a disaster. Okay. You go with this mode when your region is down. Region is down and type Chennai is down. This is the volume of stuff which I'm trying to speak about. If your Chennai's location is down for some stuff, we generally consider it to be disaster, and in that cases, we will have a downtime. Okay, if you go with Geo replication. Am I clear on that? Right, sir. Okay, then. Now, okay, I'll go into the resource groups. Okay. And we know how to configure the secondary server, which is readable. We have configured the Geo replication and all of that stuff we have done, right? Okay, fine. Let me go to server. I think what was the server in central US? Yes. So I'm not going into the database. I'm going into the server. Am I clear on this? So there are two things. Okay. Geo replications are performed at database level. Okay. Now navigate to your SQL server. Okay. So okay. Right. So I'm speaking about SQL server, not a database. In the earlier case, I was speaking about database. Okay. Right. And over here, you see some interesting things. Okay. Right, sir. Now, if you basically go to the server and click on a failover group, okay, and then you say that, okay, now I want to basically create a failover group. I will try to add a group over here. Okay. So my failover group's name is, okay, Qt failover. Okay. And then what is your secondary server? Okay, you can basically select that my secondary server is east us 2. Okay, and then okay, here what are the databases which you want to add? So I have only one database and I'm adding that. Okay, okay, so give some name to failover group, select your secondary server. Okay, and then select what are the different databases which you want to fail over, which you want to fail over. Okay, and then click on create, and then click on create. So the moment you add failover groups, okay, failover groups can be added at SQL server level, and the failover can be made automatic. Okay, so if you want the failover to be automatic, then you have to play with, what is that? You have to play with failover group. You have to play with failover group. Okay, so let us wait till this deployment is finished. Okay, see, today don't forget to delete this whole resource group, because it is not going to be that simple. It is going to take a decent stuff. So let me go to SQL server, let me go to failover groups. Okay, okay, now let me save this. uh, okay, fine then. Okay, right, now you click on this. Okay, so if you want, you can do a forced failover. If you want, you can do a forced failover. Forced failover means you are basically failing over, and this is a manual failover. This is a manual failover. Okay, and if you want to manually failover, you can do it. Okay, if you want to add the databases, you can basically do it, but databases which are configured to be right are basically available over here. Okay, am I clear on this? So whenever any database goes wrong, the moment you add a failover group, they will automatically be what do you call, the failover will become automatic. So if you have a geo replication, just geo replication will not make the failover what do you call, automatic. So on top of it, if you try to basically add a failover group to it, now you have made it automatic. Now you have made it automated. Am I clear on that? Now if that database goes down, okay, for any reason, now your failover is going to be automatic, but automatic failover is going to happen. You will still have an outage, because there might be some time till the other database comes up. It might be minutes, it might be seconds, or sometimes it will be in minutes and seconds, it will not be in hours. Okay, right? So am I clear on this topic now? Failover groups. Okay, so do we understand the difference between a failover group and a geo replication? Geo replication operates at a database level, whereas failover group operates at a SQL server level. Failover group can basically make your database, okay, automatically replicable. Okay, you can automatically replicate, right? So in the failover groups, you can add your geo replication. So adding a geo replication and then adding it to a failover group is a better choice, which industry basically uses. Clear on that? Any doubts now? So if you are a DBA, I'm quite sure you are understanding how simple it has become. I'm not a DBA. I don't come from a database world, but still I can set up applications. I can set up failovers. I can do a lot of stuff over here. Yeah. In real time, how many failover groups and geo applications will be managed? At a max, you will have one failover group, sir. Okay. Can you difference between database and SQL server? Jaydev, this is too much of a question. I think I expect at least people to know that. Okay. See, your SQL server or MySQL, okay, are the softwares that run on some server. Okay. This is your laptop. Okay. In your laptop, in SQL server, I can create multiple databases in one server. I have one software, but I can have multiple databases for different applications. So this is something which I expect people to know. This is 10th class stuff. Yeah. Yeah. No, they are not backup, sir. Backup is different. Backup is basically you're taking a copy of a data. Here you are trying to set up disaster recovery. You are trying to set up the replications. Okay. So you are trying to make your application work in extreme kinds of failures also, right? We will speak about backups. Backups are very much simple in SQL. You have to just enable them, and the backups will be automatic. Okay. So we really need not worry about backup. It is more than a backup. Okay. Okay. Right. Now I have to speak about Azure Data Sync. So let us go back to database again. So I'll go to the database which belongs to Central US. Oh, image number is 43. Thanks, Vamsi. Thanks. Okay. All right. All right. Now I have a different kind of a challenge. Okay. My challenge is, okay, let me remove this. Uh, okay. So this is Chennai. Consider it to be Chennai. Okay. And this is assume that this is your office, or I'll write it as on premise. Consider it to be your office. Okay. So what you want to do is, in your office there is some application. There is some application, and this application writes the data to a SQL database. Whatever application which you have is writing the data to SQL. Now what you want to do is, you want to sync the data between the SQL server. You want to sync the data between SQL server in your office with SQL server on the cloud. Okay. Now how do I deal with this? Okay. Now you want to sync. Okay. So this is where Okay, what we would do is we would basically deal with something called as Azure Data Sync. Azure Data Sync. Okay, uh, let me call it as agent. Okay, this guy is looking like agent, right? Okay, so we install the agent. Okay, we install the agent on this SQL server. What is this agent? Azure or SQL Azure Data Sync agent, and we give him the necessary permissions. Now what happens is, okay, once you basically do this, your data will be transferred from here to here. Okay, data synchronize. So you have an SQL server in your organization, okay, where there is some application running, and then you want to sync the data with the Azure SQL server, right? Or whatever is there on the Azure SQL server, you want it in your office. Other way around is also true. Okay, so you want this, okay, data to be synced. Okay, whatever is there in Azure SQL server, you want it over here, or whatever is there in uh, Azure SQL, you can do this. But remember, this can be possible only when I'm speaking about Azure SQL database, okay, single or elastic. Remember, there is one more thing which is called as managed instance. Okay, right? In managed instance, this data sync will not work, as yeah, at least Microsoft has not supported it so far. Microsoft has not supported it so far. Now, whenever you want data to be synced between, okay, your Azure, okay, so this is in Azure versus your organization, then data sync agents will help you in. Okay, so let me use this image. Okay, synchronize data between on-premise SQL servers, okay, to Azure SQL can be done by installing data sync agents. Data sync agents. So this is basically what it is, and I think it is 44, right? Yeah, good, right. So right. Uh, I think I can do one more thing. Uh, I can. This is especially if you are a DBA. If you come from database world, I would expect you guys read this. Sync data across, or I'll put it in this SQL data sync. Uh, yes, good. So refer here for SQL data sync. Okay, and here I'm not doing this because this is not a very common activity, right? So uh, to to set up the Azure sync. Okay, guys, right. So I think I'll not be able to speak about Elastic Pool today, but I'll definitely speak about pricing. Okay, but am I clear on so far? So we have three ways where we can synchronize the data between two stuffs. Geo applications will speak data synchronization only between Azure and Azure. Failover groups are also between Azure and Azure. But when it comes to data sync is basically used for hybrid cloud kind of scenarios where you have some of the databases in your office and then you are trying to sync it with your sync it with on-premise or on-premise to Azure or Azure to on-premise, or even you can do it from other clouds also, right? Yeah. Now, when Azure started, okay, SQL, so Azure SQL pricing, or let me put it in this way. So, all right, when Azure started, Azure used to deal saying that, okay, or I'll use Notepad itself, okay. So if you want to use Azure, you can use Azure, and I am giving you a DTU. I am giving you a DTU. So what DTU is something which they call it as database transaction unit. Okay. So basically, this is what they used to do, DTU, and then they used to start saying that, okay, DTU stands for database transaction unit. Okay, you can start from DTUs. What is a DTU? Okay, so if you go with, where was it? Okay, let me go. I'll open this. Not this one. Yeah. So for calculating this, they had given you DTU calculators and all of that stuff. This was a strange stuff which was basically designed by Microsoft, where they used to tell that whenever you increase DTU, I'll be increasing. Okay, so DTU is a combination of CPU plus RAM plus IO speed. Okay, so if you increase DTU, your database will become more effective. If you increase DTU, your database will become more effective, right? So, but this was the term which Microsoft started, and initially, even today when we have created the stuff, we have used DTUs. So, for example, if you use the databases which we have used over here, okay, if I click on configure, okay, sorry, saying there is the basic stuff which starts from DTU. Okay, so what is the DTU? I can increase the size. Okay, I can go to standard. Okay, so in standard I have DTUs from 10,000 to 3,000. Okay, I'm not going to do any kind of apply for this, but the whole point is they had some this very in what their own metric which they used to call it as DTU. What they used to say is if you increase the DTU, it will increase CPU, RAM, and it will increase the IOPS. That is speed at which your hard disk can read, or speed at which you can read the data. Okay, so then they have given three different tiers for this: basic, standard, and premium. So in basic premium, in basic the DTU was very less, but when you go to standard and premium, you have more DTUs. But the problem was, this is not how admins are used. The problem is, this is not how your admins are used. So your admins are used to basically creating the servers by selecting what you call um, a system with CPU, some kind of storage space, some kind of disk. They want their convenience to be present. So DTU is a metric which is defined by DTU is metric defined by Microsoft, which is combination of CPU plus RAM plus IO. But the problem was, this is a confusing measure. Okay, because generally when for you, if you ask a database engineer what is that your database is all about, he will try to tell the server configuration. He knows about servers. Okay, I am running my database in a server which has 32 GB of RAM, which is on a 4 core processor. He will try to tell this stuff, right? So Microsoft had to introduce the vCore model, vCore model, right? Which is, which speaks about CPU cores, okay, and speed in the terms which we generally use, which we generally use, okay, right? So that is basically what it is. And now there is one more thing which we need to worry about. What should I use? Okay, so DTUs, okay, for normal workloads, okay, or let me put it in this way, okay, what should we use? We will deal with that in our next class. I'll continue this topic because I'll not be able to finish it up in the next 5 or 10 minutes. I'll rather take questions. So Microsoft had a confusing measure called as DTU, which they didn't basically what many of the customers didn't like that idea. So what they have done is, they have created a new model now which they call as vCore. And in vCore they have two other models, right? They have something called as provisioned SQL server, and they have something called as serverless SQL server. Okay, we'll be speaking about that. But for today, if you understand whatever we have done so far, that is more than enough. And now what I'll do is, okay, I don't want to do any edits. Okay, so if you see, I'm going into my resource group. Okay, I select my SQL DB learning and I delete this resource group. Okay, it will ask you to type the resource group name. I generally copy paste that. Done. Okay, so this will be continued in the next session. So we will have much more discussion on what this GTU is, the graph and all of that stuff, and then we'll start elastic pools and then CLI and PowerShell. So tomorrow there will be half of the class will be hands-on, right? Yeah. Using the sync tool, we can choose particular SQL database. See, data sync tool is a setting at a database level, not at a server level. Data sync is tool at a particular server level. Okay. Uh, you will get the list, Shravan, very soon. You will get the list very soon. Okay. Right. Okay. Any other questions? Fine. Go through them. Okay, scheduling can be possible or manual sync. Okay, see, if you are using a data sync, you can do anything. Okay, so I have given you a link on setting up the scheduling. Please go through that and you will come to know about it. Please go through that. Right, so I think I'll stop it at that, and we will. I think we have to discuss the DevOps stuff. Okay, and the DevOps class I'll try to start it on time itself, because now I'm in home. I don't need to travel. I think I'll try to start the classes on time. Yeah. Okay, man. Thanks for your time. And hybrid identity is completed. Okay. Sir, I'm not sure whether it is right now. I'm not speaking about it. So in this 2 weeks, I'm not speaking about any identity. I'm speaking about SQL. I'm speaking about the operations as such. Right? Yeah. Okay. Fine, sir. Okay then.